morning. Financial services is a big topic, I think, for all of us in the room here. As I travel the globe and talk with customers, there's a lot of recurring themes that come up around regulatory issues, driving better customer service, compliance, and it seems to be pretty consistent across the board that people in your positions are constantly dealing with on a regular basis. So why don't we jump right in? I think we should start. Let's just give a quick introduction of yourself and your business and anything that you'd like to share about your business to start out. Stephen, I'll start with you.
Sure, happy. Thanks for having me here. So Pepper Money has been in business for about 22 years. We are Australia's most trusted non-bank lender, anything from home loans right through to novated leasing, asset financing. We've got about $20 billion worth of assets under management, and we service about 327,000 customers every day. We help people succeed who generally have been rejected by the big banks, and we focus on that underserved segment of the market.
Terrific. Ben?
Thank you. Ben Bowes, I work for Bendigo and Adelaide Bank. Bendigo and Adelaide Bank is one of Australia's largest banks, not one of the big four, but we have about 7,000 staff and service around just over 2.2 million customers. The bank was founded in 1858, so it's one of Australia's oldest brands. And in that context, I'm a relative newcomer. I've only been with the bank 22 years. Founded during the gold rush and in 2007 merged with Adelaide Bank, which I actually started out with back in the day. And following that merger, I moved across we now have two head offices, one based in Adelaide and the other based in Bendigo. Actually, I think the only Australian financial institution with on the ASX 100 with its headquarters in a regional centre. I head up the workflow and robotics department or service, which looks after our Appian platform as well as robotic process automation.
Terrific. Thank you. And Bassett.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Good morning, everyone. On the back of what Ben and Steve were mentioning about, I work with Westpac Group. I might not be qualified even to say how much of Westpac I know, because I've been around for 2 years with Westpac, while the company has been for more than 2 centuries, so it's a bit of a journey there. Just about my own role, I'm responsible for the group operations, the operation footprint across the Westpac, supporting all the divisions. I'm privileged to say that I lead a team of 5,000 people and also 2,000 digital workers or bots. You can count these days, you want to count them all, right? On my own personal front, I've been in Australia for the last 5 years. I've had the privilege of working in multiple places, almost 3 decades in financial services. Probably that's the only thing I know. I'm not fit for any other industry, probably. But having done that with Citi for a couple of decades and across the globe, and also with ANZ for nearly 7 or 8 years, in the last 2 years with Westpac Group. And my role is to try and support our customers, because typically operations is not seen, meant not to be seen. It's the spine of like a backbone, a silent performer behind. There's a few opportunities that we get to actually stand in front of you guys and talk.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much. So let's jump right in. Digital transformation. This is a topic that, and I think words that are used quite often in many industries, and definitely very much in the financial services business. Let's talk about challenges. What challenges do you see in your business? How's the digital transformation journey going? And maybe talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you're driving. Bhaskar, I'll start with you.
Sure. So I think the word journey is very important, right? Many companies which have been around for some time, serving the communities, serving the customers for many, many decades, and like I said, in our case, a couple of centuries, the problems are pretty similar. You don't need to go around the table to find a lot of things. The main challenge is trying to respond to customer expectations, because customers are seeing living a lot more digital lives. Probably what they see, every employee, the experience that they have in their own personal lives, their PDAs, their mobile, and the experience that they have versus what you are really expecting from banks or financial services, very, very high and Appian. Balancing that with driving transformation at scale, both in the face of growing business expectations and also technology complexity. So that's a bit of a basic fundamental thing. Now let me try and break it up into a couple of 2 or 3 dimensions to it. First is on platform. Platforms, we have obviously, when you have a legacy company, you have a lot of legacy platforms, and they come together, they keep growing. They're hard work to try and move out from. They are great because they're stable, they do everything well. At the same time, for you to be nimble and grow, it is hard work. So we do have technology roadmaps to try and get there. So there is a problem, there is a solution. But in terms of timeliness, how often are we able to really respond to our roadmaps, really keeping pace with where exactly we want to go? So we have to choose between strategic and tactical, the tactical ones which line up with the strategic part of it. That's first one. In terms of processes, which is a big part of it, I think I heard Matt talking about it. Processes are the real way where, what's invisible to the customer, but what happens behind. And that complexity, the non-standardization of process, is really a big challenge that we have across, and they layer and layer with more and more new policies, more regulations on how people respond and products. And the third is, in my mind, the mindset, digital first mindset. I think we all know, like it alluded to, people live in a lot more digital world. Digital is very intuitive. 2 decades back, probably not, but in the last 2 decades, you see everything. Everybody has a view of what is digital. But to actually translate that into culture and try and really be digital first thinking is a journey that we are all on. So that's a genuine challenge that I think we can have. So if I think of those being the challenges, I'm happy to stop a challenge, but then get through the solutions to it. How we have responded is, one is on the technology and business strategy. The strategy that the bank has adopted, embraced, is digital to the core, because you can have a beautiful front end, but not really do anything much on the back end. It works for the customer, but it is hard work. It's not going to be elegant. Your employees, who are one of the most important, happy employees, happy customers. It's very clear. So to that extent, digital to the core. Now, what does that mean? Practically, in my mind, it is trying to get everything digitized, such a way you can really drive data-driven decision making. On top of it, if you're able to genuinely get to a stage where customers and employees experience the same thing. I've seen this a decade back in Europe with one of the companies which really pioneered in this space, and which was, you think it's pretty easy. Imagine having the screen for the customer being the screen for the employee. That's hard work. What's beautiful screen in the front, you see the spaghetti behind of all the things that happen. But that will be an ideal dream to try and get there. And finally, simple STP where possible, straight to processing, not straight to paper, and try and get also automation where you can't really get there. So that's in my mind, that's a bigger strategy. How have we responded from a group operations perspective? We've tried to set up a digital operations center of excellence. Digital and operations really don't go through as well, but I think it's trying to just say we are focused on the operational aspect of the whole digital experience, right? So the 3 things that I can touch on, 3 or 4 things there, is firstly, the way we have tried to respond is first trying to build some basic foundational capabilities. I think, again, Matt touched on it, is process mining, for example. Process mining to try and shine light on where is complexity, how do you try and get after that? Second, how do we try and get one way of work flowing into operations instead of having many, many ways of getting work? So having a work orchestration tool which really can get that. And thirdly, try and drive the intelligent automation, try beyond APIs, get all of that going. And lastly, from the mindset, citizen development. Let people who have the mindset to try and get access to tools and capabilities and work within guardrails. All of these are in various stages of journey, but let me stop there.
No, that's great. You mentioned the word legacy many times. Every time you did, you looked at me, so I don't know what that means. But when we talk about legacy, a lot of times that means that the applications that have been written or the workflow that's in place the people that actually developed that are no longer around. So that's got to present immense challenges in your business as well, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think you go around many of these companies, there are a lot of people who really are much more valuable than the weight in gold, because they are really, people are dependent on their knowledge.
Yeah, and the customer service piece is so key to maintain that base. Ben, anything you'd like to add to that as well?
Absolutely. Look, I agree with everything Bhaskar said. I recently heard a quote by Brett King, who's an Australian futurist, entrepreneur and author. It was something along the lines of, the reason the world needs fintech is because banks around the world run on 1960s technology, the core banking mainframe. They're offering a 14th century product, the bank account, which is protected by a 1st century security mechanism, the signature. Now, obviously, he was being provocative, but there is a lot of truth in all that. As Bhaskar was saying, we run an old green screen mainframe. The developers of that have all retired, and so it is a challenge. And so, one of the ways we're facing into that challenge is we're really unraveling the labyrinth of technology we've built up over the years, and rebuilding that in a way that is digital first, that is cloud first, and supported by APIs and microservices. Now, all of that is challenging. All of that's hard to do. It's harder to do whilst you're trying to maintain stability and provide the level of service that your customers have come to expect, adapt to the changes that your customers have come to expect, and are continuing to expect new ways of interacting with the bank at all times, and of course doing that in an environment that is heavily regulated with a constantly shifting regulation environment. So all of that is challenging. It's like changing the engine in the car while you're racing down the highway. So, but we're really facing into that. We've invested quite heavily in making sure that we have the right technology, leadership, and culture to support our digital transformation journey.
That's great. Stephen, I know your business is a little bit different in some ways, but facing some similar types of challenges, right?
Having been in business for 22 years, we do have a fair share of legacy. But I guess we're a bit less encumbered than some of the bigger financial institutions when it comes to regulation. And I know digital transformation strikes fear. I think the mic's dropping out. Digital transformation strikes fear into the hearts of many organizations, given the rate of success these days, when you do all those things combined. But it is the usual challenges for us around people, process, and technology. A lot of the platforms that we're having to modernize, integrate with are a quite substantial amount of legacy there. And sorry, can we fix the mic? It's dropping out, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I think we can.
Is it coming through okay? Quite a lot of legacy to deal with and integrate with, and I do like that analogy because we talk in Pepper a lot about flying the airplane while swapping the engine out, and that is no simple feat. Certainly as an industry, from a process point of view, it's still very paper heavy. It's still very manual process heavy. It still relies on a lot of humans to do things like credit decisioning. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to transform that straight through processing, reimagine and challenge some of the legacy that's been there for many, many years, and try and automate that end to end. Same with the customer experience, like it's a very call center traditional business for many years. And even moving into things like self-service and managing the change around customers' propensity to do that, it has been a real challenge to work through. And then internally, like the rate at which digital transformation happens these days, and the speed at which things can move with technologies like Appian, it's too easy to overlook the human side of that. And when you use words like automation and you're talking to collections officers, all the usual human side of things come into play around, what does that mean for my job and my future security? And so the change management side of all of this transformation is equally important. So we've tried in Pepper very much to combine the right digital operating model, the right digital transformation mechanisms to leverage that core without letting it hold us back, and automate as much of the origination and underwriting journey as possible. But again, as we do that rapidly, making sure we're bringing people along the journey is really important.
So something that you all said pretty consistently was this whole concept of really driving both the employee but also the customer experience. And so many times that's so interwoven together that the employees having a positive experience translates to the customer and so forth. And obviously, without a positive customer experience, you go through churn, which nobody wants. And, so you got to maintain that. So Ben, if I could ask you maybe from a perspective of, as you look at the digital transformation efforts that you're driving, any thoughts on how you're seeing that improve employee customer experience?
Absolutely. So look, at Bendigo Bank, we are focused on being digital first and human when it matters. So what I mean there is really it's people that drive business innovation and a technology that enables it, not the other way around. So we are really focused on making improving the experience of both our employees and our customers, and particularly in my space, where we're focused on reducing the manual effort required by our people to do mundane tasks. Things that copying data from one spreadsheet to another spreadsheet or into a mainframe system. That's not them getting having a fulfilling day at work. We'd much rather them be having meaningful conversations with our customers, and building relationships with our customers and with their colleagues than pushing pieces of paper around. So that's one of the key tenets to our digital transformation.
Bhaskar, how about you from a customer experience perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of, I'm saying I'm genuinely proud of how the bank has tried to embrace digital first as a journey, and then I think we have genuinely external benchmarks. We have moved up the scale in terms of from where we were, nowhere near probably where we would like to be, but the fact that we are a lot more intuitive in our app, we are probably easy to search and a lot of other features. But again, that's at the front, right? Coming back to the back end. So the pieces that what I'm focused on specifically from our digital operations, COE, and also from a transformation from our operations perspective, is to try and see how do we try and get some of those things all the way end to end. And that's where a partnership with Appian and also with work orchestration as a program, which we have tried to do, is one of the large programs is, given we are a bank with multiple brands which have come together, historically we still have a lot of brands which are having a distinct way of initiating a service request. All of those requests, for example, are unique in their own way. At the same time, the real effect is if you want to redraw, there's one. Redraw is redraw. It doesn't matter whether it's which bank, which product, or which channel, we have all of those things. So what we have done as a front end is to try and simplify that and try and have one consistent way of trying to initiate a service request, irrespective of a channel, brand, or it's manned, unmanned, all of that. But typically what would happen is you would do all of that and then eventually it'll come as a request and somebody manually process all of that. What we've tried to do is to try and bring that in and let it be caught by a work orchestration platform, which is a spine which really connects all these processes digitally. Where possible, run on APIs, but API is going to be the best way to try and do what you can do. But then it only goes so far, but beyond which you're trying to get the remaining elements of automation to try and get through all of that. So that's been what does it mean for employees and for customers? For employees, you're starting to see, instead of having to log into 10 different things to do the same thing, you're doing one way of doing it. Much better for my team leader perspective, for people manager perspective, much better visibility of where work is, how it's allocated. At the same time, from a customer perspective, you really are cutting short the end-to-end time cycles. You're able to give notification to customers as to request where exactly is it fulfilled, not fulfilled, what is the status, and a whole lot of things like that. That's one big element of it. The other part which we have also done is a lot of automations which we have done in the last 24 to 36 months has been, we've done more than 300 plus automations. And taken away or saved more than 1 million hours, man-hours of effort. That's 1 million hours that could be spent on more value-adding customer-facing stuff. And at the same time, those automations are not just purely just doing 10 steps being automated here and there. There have also been some great use cases like trying to help customers in hasten their surge in volume when it happens on the back of a flood. You have a lot of claims that come through. You want to automate that whole process. Your response time is so much better. Or in the face of COVID, when you had to come up with a lot of relief packages, you really had to work hard to try and get all of them through. That's where automations came and help. Apart from really improving things, trying to get our day-to-day underwriting processes, most important steps using different tools in automation. So I see them genuinely intertwined, both employee and customer, like the way you're touching on, and trying to ensure that getting both of them getting there. And finally, I think in terms of our own experience with citizen development, which is something which are in early days, is trying to get, and again, low-code platforms enable that, democratizing development, but within guardrails of controls and having some safety net so that people are able to really use. It is genuinely for employees motivating because they can start solving their own problems. It is a lot less riskier than people doing on the side their own stuff. And of course, it also helps us speed and cost. So I can keep talking about examples there, but I think it's a very important theme, bringing them together.
I think that's a key thing. When you talk about employees not only being able to solve their own problems, but that's got to get it closer to the customer where they can truly feel empowered of taking care of the customer so it doesn't have to always go back to headquarters, faster response, and so forth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk maybe about going forward. If we think about, you mentioned earlier, digital transformation is a journey. It's an ongoing process. Your jobs are, I'm sure many sleepless nights in dealing with this. But let's look out. Maybe if we talk a little bit about the top 2 or 3 things that are keeping you up at night as far as the digital transformation priorities that you're thinking about. And I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Straight through processing experience is huge for us. Certainly the lending origination journey is continuing to be disrupted across Australia and globally. We're focused really on how do we get that seamless digital application experience straight through into automated credit decisioning, and really lift the time to yes for these underserved customers. So that's huge for us. That involves unpacking all of the process chain. It involves integrating from modern platforms, modern composable platforms into legacy and making that work end to end. Huge focus there. The second is APIs. So, we're turning our architecture into a headless capability. And we do this already a lot with our lending partners and our introducer partners in asset finance, where we embed our credit capabilities into their platform. So their brokers and their introducers don't leave their system. So that's huge for us in terms of how do we create seamlessness right through from those lending partners and brokers into our organization. And the last one is it is linked to employee experience. Is how do we streamline and integrate and make the employee experience as frictionless as possible. And we've used Appian to great success in that in customer care, where we've abstracted 9 systems away from those customer care agents, and we're continuing to build that out so that the more we can make their lives easier, the more that they're going to better service our customers, and that's really critical for us. So they're the 3 things that keep me awake at night, in addition to making sure we don't get hacked.
Small issue there, right? Yeah. Well, thank you. Ben, how about from your perspective?
So at Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, we've internally called FY23 the year of the API. Now, I've been around long enough to know that I think it was 2009 we had something similar as well. It was called the year of the API. But this time we are really focused on building out our API catalogue, and that's being built, as I mentioned before, in cloud, really to enable us to continue connecting all our disparate systems within the bank, but also critically partnering with some other organisations. And we've done that already to great effect with our partnership on building out our digital bank with Ferocia, called Bank. and also partnering with TikTok to provide class-leading mortgage, online mortgage response times. So that's really key for us, is continuing to build out that catalogue, and a lot of focus being put on that over this next financial year. Absolutely, a major focus is InfoSec. I think everybody is talking about that now. That's a really significant focus, and I think keeps pretty much all technologists up at night at times. Those are probably the couple that we're mostly focused on.
That's great. Bhaskar, I know you mentioned a few earlier. Anything else to add there?
No, I guess entirely echo what's being mentioned. I think we're all running after the same goal and trying to get the same, improve the customer experience overall, trying to make it simpler. I think personally for me, I think like I touched on, digital to the core is the strategy that is a journey we are on, and wanting to get, I think in the last 12 months, the new kid on the block is for us process mining. It really, the first time when I saw it play out, how many variations the process has, it's mind-boggling. You can't even imagine. I mean, you would think so. No two people do the same thing the same way. And when you sit next to a so-called an SME, you see the process, you think, oh, get another SME, there's a small tweak, and then a tweak, and then a tweak. So the whole, and when you can see it all at one place and really see that all in one place and get the audience to appreciate the level of opportunity. So to me, that capability, which is just pretty new, we want to really try and scale that. And the elements of intelligent automation, which has been predominantly, we are more mature on the robotics, but trying to get beyond that into using more intelligent document recognition process and other elements coming through, and having a low-code capability coming through. And finally, to me, I think this journey of democratizing the power of low-code is spoken about. To bring it to life is really a part. We've seen some parts of it because it's easier said than done, I'm sure. I think that's a journey which I want to get through, because it genuinely is going to make it a lot more nimble, agile, and also engaging for us.
That's great. So this is a great, probably a great way for us to wrap this up, teeing off of your last comment there, Bhaskar. As the Chief Revenue Officer, I'm going to be completely shameless with this question, okay? With those priorities that you mentioned, how do you envision Appian helping you as we move forward?
So Appian is absolutely fundamental to our technology strategy and architecture. As I mentioned, we're using it right through customer care to abstract systems from employees and manage all the workflow and orchestration. We're using it in origination underwriting, so 100% of our residential and commercial loans originate through Appian. And then when it comes to asset finance, like we've moved away from traditional, slow-moving, off-the-shelf lending solutions, again, to Appian end-to-end, and that business has experienced 70% volume increases in the last 18 months. And in asset finance, they talk about, we used to get to 5 o'clock and they would suddenly start, okay, we've got to finish all the loans and then work the weekends. Overtime was a really big thing. So with that volume increase, Appian has been fundamental in allowing us to achieve auto approval rates of about 60% for novated leasing, and that's just going to continue on, and over time coming down has been huge. So building on all of that and continuing to hollow out the core and move to more composable architecture is fundamental. And the data fabric is really exciting for us. We're not leveraging that yet, but I think there's lots to do there in terms of bridging the gap between modern and legacy in a much more seamless way.
Thank you for that. Ben, how about yourself?
So, look, Appian's already played a really key role in our organisation. We have just under 120 different applications running on the platform. Some of them are quite large and complex, and others are small, sort of a couple of interfaces. But one of the early adopters there was our dispute management platform. So customer transaction disputes. It was essentially a case management platform and integrates with the likes of MasterCard and so forth. So one of the key things we're working on in the near future is to build an integration between that dispute management platform and our digital bank up, so that a customer, rather than communicating with a case officer or having to interact with someone via chat, they can simply click a transaction and say, this wasn't me, I'd like to dispute this, and that'll feed automatically straight through to our case management platform. And in many cases, we're actually, based on a certain number of rules, we're actually automatically processing a write-off for those transactions if the customer's and honest, and we have a number of checks that we can confirm that they haven't recently done something similar. So that's one of the exciting ways that we're integrating Appian over the next period.
That's great. Bhaskar, any final thoughts from your?
Yeah, I guess we signed Appian contract last November. We're less than a year. We're still new kid on the block. I think I have run here right in the front row, one of our colleagues here. We see it's the word of mouth inside the company in terms of seeing what can be done, where exactly we would like to go. So there are going to be a lot more demand coming through. Like I said, our way of trying to get everything in one way of getting things and getting them to be done is going to drive a lot more place. We have focused predominantly on servicing so far, trying to get in more spaces where it makes sense is what exactly.
That's terrific. Well, I want to thank you all again very much for not only being here, but for the tremendous partnership. And I look forward to committing on behalf of Appian, continuing to exceed your expectations as you go along your digital transformation journey, and hopefully be a part of allowing you to rest easier at night with all of these challenges that you have coming up. So if we give a round of applause to our panelists, thank you so much, gentlemen.